Welcome to hashtag 52 Needs and this week's topic, dignity. And I'm very privileged to have with me the amazing Susan Staples, who is a natural healing advocate and who has studied natural healing practices for more than 15 years. Susan experienced a health crisis in 2004 and a car accident that left her with no clear medical path for a cure. But she was determined to get better, and so she discovered a path through the ancient healing practices inspired by traditional Chinese medicine and Peruvian shamanism. As a grounded airline pilot, Susan understands the challenges of today's work demands. She's passionate about sharing these ancient art forms in a modern way. Susan earned her BS in health education and an A in spiritual psychology, and she's uniquely qualified as she integrates her learnings as a captain for a major airline with the learnings she had made at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, the University of Santa Monica, and the Four Winds Light Body School of Energy Medicine. Susan is also certified by the American Association of Drugless Practitioners, and through her online private practice, she offers one-on-one sessions that include personal health coaching and life medicine, energy medicine interventions, what she calls living above the clouds, which for an airline pilot is the perfect name.
It is.
Hello, Susan.
Hi, Angela.
Good to see you again. Okay, so where do we find dignity in everyday life?
Well, one of the reasons I like that phrase, living above the clouds, because it references everyday life and just living. Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed when I was flying is oftentimes I would drive to the airport. It would be raining, dreary day. And sometimes even my emotions would just kind of go along with the weather, where it's just like, okay, it's raining, And, it's just that day you want to cuddle up with a book next to a fireplace, especially if it's a cold rain, and not go to work for that matter, or not do anything in your life, but just take that moment and chill, which sometimes can be a good idea. But that's not practical and it's not real life. But what happened is when we took off, we'd be above the clouds. And even though all the people on the ground would be experiencing the rain, there I would be in so much appreciation because there's all the sunshine right above the clouds. And my spirits would feel more lifted, and I was going somewhere and taking other people places, and, life was good. And I felt like I was living my life very fully, and felt very lucky to not be in the rain anymore. So I think that we can sometimes bring that analogy into real life, where some days we have clouds. We have clouds that we have to work through. We have challenges, and sometimes clouds are good analogies for clouds, or for challenges. Thunderstorms can be the bigger storms in our life to go through, the life events.
Yeah.
And we have to learn how to navigate around them and through them. And dignity can certainly bring that. It is that passageway through.
Yeah. Okay. So when I think about dignity, I often think about age, because of course, diversity as well, because there's dignity that we afford, because dignity is not something you give. Some dignity is something that we all have. And the UN Declaration of Human Rights says that it's an unalienable right that we have. But we can treat people like children. I grew up with children are supposed to be seen but not heard. There wasn't a lot of dignity in being a child. So I was always under the impression that I had to pretzel myself into what my parents wanted me to be, that I didn't have the dignity to say, or the right to say no, or to have my own opinion maybe, or, dress the way I would like to, or whatever it might have been. But that it was always my parents telling me, and in not so uncertain terms, what was appropriate and what wasn't. And I'm not sure whether that was dignity, because I know that being a girl definitely wasn't a great thing in my house. So that was definitely a question of dignity. But how far does dignity go?
I think as far as you want it to. I think it can be as expansive or contracted as however you're perceiving it
Yeah.
at that moment in time. The sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, when I hear you talk about dignity in your own life experience, what came forward for me is also the fact that the dignity of your process of growing up,
Mm.
the dignity of someone's process of passing away in a
Yeah.
dignified way,
Yes.
the process of being birthed in a dignified way,
Yeah.
and in partnership, being in some ways, in this way, the word respect often comes in to
Mm.
as a supporting word to try to understand it
Yeah.
and to get some value to it. But it
Yeah, they're
comes
often used together, right? Yeah.
sometimes, I found when I was researching dignity before the show, it really has a multitude of meanings,
Mm.
and you can use it in many different ways.
Yeah.
But it all came back to, I think, value.
I think for me, yeah, value, it's the consideration for someone's value, a consideration for their rights,
Mhm.
um, and for their well-being.
Mhm.
Now, but
Well,
it's our
life
job to also step
are,
up for that.
for me, I look at things with my training a little differently than the average person. I like to think that if I can invite you and our viewers to just come on up and fly with me above the clouds for a minute, okay?
Yep.
Because at a higher altitude, you have a bigger map.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that myopic small map of only seeing the surroundings around you. When you're up at altitude and it's a clear day, you can see, the horizon miles and miles and miles, right? And that's what I like to invite people to do, is to really get a bigger map, to really look at where dignity is or is not being afforded in their life, and why. That gap can be healed, first of all. And I want everyone to realize that if you're not feeling you're being treated in a dignified way, then we need to talk. Okay, so
Agreed.
um, and, and I haven't always felt in a dignified myself, so I really get it. I get the way my own family life was, and especially in relationships. Oh my goodness. I mean, just throw me off the cliff right now, right? Um, I mean, some people read a book, some people listen to other people talk, and then there's other of us that just literally have to fall off the cliff and get hit in the head and get it. But it's
And hopefully survive.
and hopefully survive it. Yeah. And I think especially I'm speaking to the women out there, you know, we have to define what dignity looks like to ourselves
Yeah,
first.
exactly.
We have to take the time. We're in a very transitional time right now. This is a beautiful time, a great opportunity for women to heal everything that they're feeling and been experiencing, that they feel like they've been at the short end of the stick. And for tonight's conversation, dignity, and to be living life in a dignified way, to be in a relationship, whether it's as a wife, a mother, a daughter, being treated in a dignified way. But it starts with self-care.
Yeah.
And it's self how we're treating ourselves,
Yeah.
right? So I always like to go there, but I also like to go to the place where we have patterns that follow into families.
Mm.
And I love to, this is where the energy medicine is so beautiful, because we can cut cords, we can cut the energy that is tying the undignified type living and the living below the clouds.
Yeah.
We're tethered too close to the earth in that case. So we want you to get up above and into the altitude and feel that life above the clouds where you're free. Because this really is, in my estimation, is about freedom.
Yeah. And you can't expect other people to lift you up there. You actually have to do the flying yourself.
Mm-hmm. You do. You have to be your own captain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You
You were in the
do.
right job before you did this, weren't you?
You know, people say, you did what? You were a captain and then now you're doing what? And they say, how did the two come together? And you know, it took me a long time to figure that out too. Um, in fact, for those of you who watched Oprah back in the probably the 90s and the early 2000s, there is a pretty famous OBGYN, Dr. Christiane Northrup.
Mhm.
And I went to one of her talks after I could walk again, one of her healing talks, and she was talking about women's health. And I went to it, and afterwards I thanked her for her information, and I told her, you know, I'm grounded, I can't fly, and but this is the direction I'm going. And she said this really weird thing to me at the time. And she said, Susan, she says, I think the reason why you've gotten to the point you have is because of what you learned as a pilot.
Mm.
And I said, okay. And she kind of walked away, and I walked away, and what the heck did she mean? And it took me 2 years to figure it out. And so and this fits in so beautifully with dignity and where we're at in daily life,
Yeah.
is that what came to me then is that in the airplane, we do what's called declare an emergency. When things just are beyond what normal operating procedures can afford, we declare an emergency. And what happens when we declare the emergency? We no longer have to follow standard operating procedures. We get to do whatever we want to do to land the airplane safely. And
Mm.
that's what I'm inviting everyone to do, is if things aren't going well and you're not feeling that dignity in your life,
Yeah.
declare an emergency on dignity.
Yeah.
And stop following what you think you should do and start looking for creative alternative ways to find your dignity again, to heal the part inside of you that's not allowing dignity to be expressed.
Mm. And help translate it into other areas as well, not just your own personal one, because I think dignity is a real big topic for all sorts of areas of life. Again, it's about women, it's about other cultures, it's about different ethnicity, um, sexual preferences. I mean, all of the topics that are really so prevalent right now. And I think this is my personal opinion, we also need to include Earth in that. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
know that in Ecuador, when I can't remember, it was like 2008 or something. They were the first country that actually granted legal rights to nature. And in 2017, I very distinctly remember that New Zealand granted the Whanganui River the same rights as a human being. So, and there's several countries around the world. There's um, Bangladesh, for example, says rivers are like mothers. So if you mistreat your mother, you will be punished. So
Mm-hmm.
it's about creating a different awareness for the dignity of Mother Earth. So we don't, like we don't exploit her the way we have been. And I don't know if that's a consciousness shift that's happening, or whether that's still a long time away.
Well, the shamanism that I have been studying with the Kiro people were the earth keepers.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, that's very near and dear. And natural medicine is all about connecting to the earth,
Yeah.
whether through plant medicine or through the stone work that we use and things like that. However, and of course, the animals, there's really this beautiful relationship that, yes, we can develop with Mother Earth.
Mm.
And it can be reflected back energetically back to us and through our chakra system, through our entire energy body. And so that's the beauty, is it's up to us to establish that relationship on an individual basis with Mother Earth. And then we can bring it to our family, bring it to our communities, bring it to the entire planet. There's a real hierarchy um, in the ancient ways. And I think there's so many things that we can learn about the ancient ways because they tend to go all the way around full circle, where sometimes the modern ways kind of stop short at some things.
Yeah.
And one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to point our fingers at other people and say, you will do this or else. Because when we force something on somebody, we're not providing them the dignity of their own process, right? And their own soul's journey for that matter.
Mm.
So Mother Earth is very strong and she will prevail one way or the other. It's up to us to honor her process in a dignified way through honoring our own relationship with her. And that might look like just taking your shoes off and walking around on the beach or walking in the grass and feeling what she can provide us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went into the Amazon a few years ago, and my relationship to Mother Earth has changed completely after that. To see the abundance and how quickly, nature recovers things, and when human beings are out of the picture, especially, or when human beings just decide that it's no longer worth it because they have what they wanted. And the strength and the power and the diversity. And it was an amazing experience. And I have to say, it's changed the way I look at the end of the world, because I now go, the human experiment may not turn out to be greatly successful, but Mother Earth will survive. And that's given me a lot of peace of mind. And because I look around and I say, could we do better? And yes, we can. But this is what we do. And yes, it will go its course.
And we'll survive to it. We'll just be messy, perhaps at times, but human experience has always been a little bit messy. So, we can do better, and that's what evolution is all about.
Yeah. So basically, if we're looking at all the different aspects of dignity and all the people that require, because it's a need, require dignity. I mean, again, we can talk about this for a very long time, but we won't be doing that now. I would say, just as an invitation, have a look at how you treat children. Have a look at how you treat adults or older people. That's, again, the dignity of autonomy for an older person. It's really hard to say to somebody, no, we should put you into a home because you can't take care of yourself anymore. And the loss of dignity that goes along with that, especially if the person really feels that they still can do it. And it's just convenient to have that, for example.
Well, and these are things that are very cultural. Different cultures handle their elderly different ways. And this is, of course, as more gray hairs come on my head that I'm aware of. And then, of course, COVID has taught us so much about taking care of the elderly. It's also taught us about how Mother Earth looked pretty clean when everyone stayed home for a few days, right? So there's a lot that we can learn. And it really is about taking that personal responsibility first, because leading by example is more powerful than anything else we can do.
Yeah. It's great to sign off with #MeToo and hashtag Black Lives Matter. As long as we don't walk the talk, it's a meaningful hashtag, right? So
yeah, everyone has to find their own definition to what all of that means. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, dignity, huge topic, massive topic.
It is. I feel honored that you invited me to talk about it.
Well, thank you, because I couldn't imagine anybody more suited for that, because with your shamanic background and your career and everything that you stand for, dignity is your topic.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it so much until we got into it a little bit more, but yes. And so, I'd like to just invite everyone to think about what that means for them. and bring that to higher levels of your consciousness. Don't leave it in a place of victimhood, like I'm not dignified enough or I'm not being treated well enough. And that's what we have to be very careful about. We have to be able to lead by example. We have to be able to do the hard work of healing.
Mm.
And because when we heal ourselves, we actually heal others.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we really want. We want to live in a healed world. That's how we create peace.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Susan. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to think about this for the next few days, because I will start noticing where dignity is important and where am I living up, where am I not to that. And thank you.
Yeah, you'll find it where it's present in you. I have a feeling I'll be looking at it as well from a new lens after the session with you tonight. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you soon. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Thank you, Angela.